goes Nikola Jokic. His team is getting obliterated. First quarter. Here's an example of it. Look at the physicality Karl Anthony Towns on Jamal Murray here, Jay Will.
Damn. Charge something.
No whistle there, by the way.
If you're not calling that, but you're calling moving screen on the last play.
Okay, now, here we go. I want you to watch very closely what happens here. There's Anthony Edwards. He's look at Michael Malone out on the floor. He's yelling. He's screaming on this play. Somehow no technical was even called on him. So we got ourselves Minnesota jumping out to an early lead. Now, that's Edwards again. He's ridiculous. Now, here we go. Second quarter. Timberwolves are up 17. Jamal Murray and the Nuggets are really struggling. He's having a terrible night. His team is getting destroyed. Watch on the floor. You're going to see an object come flying out onto the floor. It turns out it is a heating pad, and as we look more closely over to the sideline, you will see it is thrown unquestionably by Jamal Murray. That's Murray in frustration throwing an object out onto the floor. We'll dive into exactly how the officials handled it and what might happen as we continue. In the meantime, the rest of the game was just a whole bunch of legs. I mean, Anthony Edwards.
I tell you what, I don't recall seeing a team as good as Denver this suffocated offensively for an entire half the way that I did last night.
Oh, by the way, Rudy Gobert, the soon-to-be Defensive Player of the Year again, wasn't even there. He had their first child yesterday. Congratulations to them. In the meantime, they didn't miss him, that's for sure. Anthony Edwards, he had 27 and 7. This was never a game. Never a game. The Timberwolves are up 2 games to none. Michael Malone, what?
We got outcoached, we got outplayed. And you can feel sorry for yourself, or you can do whatever you can to try to be better come game 3. And that's my focus, is rallying these guys to continue to fight.
All right, they need to continue to fight. The question is, are they going to have to do it without their second best player in game 3, which I'm told you're going to call Friday night in Minnesota. Do I have that? Let me come to Windy here. Yeah. Again, you got home from the Garden last night or back to your hotel in time to sort of dive into all of this. So there isn't any question. Murray throws an object onto the floor during play. It also appears he tried to throw a towel or something else during that time. Tell us what decisions were made and what we should be expecting.
After the game, Mark Davis, the lead official, one of the best officials in the NBA, says they didn't call it because they didn't see it. Now, it's coming from behind the bench. I don't blame them for not seeing it. So the question is, well, what is the penalty? And had they seen Jamal Murray throw this, Mark Davis on the record says it would have been a technical foul, not an ejection. Now, I do believe he's facing a fine here, and I don't know what to do about the incident with throwing the towel, because now you got a player throwing multiple things at an official. By the way, Chris Finch said after the game that this was dangerous. He's right. Those things are slippery. It lands underneath Reggie Jackson's foot. He could have slipped on it. The towel, look at here's the towel. You can watch the ball boy comes out and goes, uh-oh, I don't want anybody to see that. He pulls it out of there.
Yeah.
Murray's freaking out because he's angry at the official in the middle of a terrible night because he's getting smothered by Minnesota's defense. Most of the penalties in the NBA are for players throwing things off the court.
Right.
It's an immediate ejection if you throw it off the court. But frankly, I don't know the precedent for throwing stuff on the court. It never happens.
All right, so the symbolism of them throwing in the towel is interesting but what should happen here?
Me personally, I feel like he should be suspended for a game. That was an inch away from Karl Anthony Towns planting his right foot right on that thing. That could have hurt him. He could have been out of the game. I understand it's not precedent, but I think that was such an immature move by Jamal Murray, and that could have been a really hurtful, nasty thing to happen to Karl Anthony Towns.
I'll be shocked if he's not, truthfully, because the two things can happen there. One, there's a lip on those things, about that big. Easily, somebody could step on that, roll their ankle, sprain an ankle. The other thing that could happen is you could step directly on top of it and have that thing slide out. Now you're talking about a groin injury potentially.
Look at that right here. Look at the right foot. Look right there.
Right in the middle of the paint. So I don't know how the league wouldn't suspend a player for throwing an object, like any object, onto the court in the middle of the lane when there's 5 guys in this regard. Playing.
They may have been much better off, the Nuggets, if the officials had seen it, because they could have then thrown him out of that game, and it wouldn't be carrying over to game 3 when they'll be playing for their lives. Listen, I've been covering the sport for 35 years. I've been watching it my entire life. I'm not sure I've ever seen that.
I haven't.
I cannot imagine a player can throw an object onto the court purposefully during play and have there be a fine. What are you fining him? $20 million? How much money does he make? You can't fine him an amount of money that's going to make any difference. I can't imagine that's all that will happen.
Should be a firm law. You can't throw anything on the court, and if you do, you're suspended.
Should go without saying. I mean, there's some things that don't even have to be said out loud.
I'm actually in a state of shock that Jamal Murray didn't have more restraint than that. I mean, what could he possibly be thinking to throw an object like that into the middle of the lane when the game is going on? I mean, come on. As a player, you got to have better control over your emotions than that. Put a break on it. I understand how frustrated you were, and they're getting completely dominated, demoralized. Any word you can think of, it happened to the Denver Nuggets in the first half of that game. But if you're Jamal Murray, you've got to show more restraint than that because, look, that could lead to you now not having an opportunity to punch back on Friday night.
I don't know what's worse, him getting suspended or the fact that he's been in jail the last 2 games. I don't want to hear any of this talk about calf injury. They have strapped him up.
I have a full screen on this. Will, if we can throw up the Jamal Murray full screen, I have it as A76. Jamal Murray was 3 for 18 in this game last night. That's 17%. That's the second worst in Nuggets playoff history. Only Carmelo Anthony ever had a worse game, which was way back in 2004. So, I mean, we saw it's one thing to have a bad night. Jamal Murray's a great player, and he has proven himself to be clutch. No one is questioning that. Look, I don't know. If I know one thing, it is that you cannot throw an object onto the floor. A fan would be thrown out of the arena. They would have their tickets taken away if a season ticket holder did that. If a player ran onto the court and did something while it was happening, this is no different from that.
I think you make a great point because if they had made the ejection in the moment, you're probably right. He probably
then he's just ejected.
Skirts that, and we go on to game 3 and he plays. The fact that this has become this public where the camera caught Jamal Murray doing that and nothing happened to him in the moment, I don't know how the league just, says, okay, let's just play on Friday night.
Did it twice.